Hi. This is going to be an awesome class. I love this class. So we're talking about the thyroid tonight. So a little bit about me. Dr. Craig Rolls. I'm a board-certified clinical internist and clinical nutritionist. So I was trained in basically all the things that medical doctors do. Actually, when my first started practice as an internist, I did OB work. I did gynecological exams, breast exams, did prostate exams, did the whole 9 yards. So I'm trained as a physician to examine the body. It's just that our approach is very different. So we work on functional medicine as opposed to clinical Western medicine. So we use the same testing, the same equipment, same information, but we look at it entirely different. We look at it more from a functional standpoint because we recognize that we want to know what's happening inside. Well, quite honestly, I can never figure out medicine anyway. I mean, it never made any sense to me because Western medicine does what? What do they do?
Hide symptoms.
Well, they test, right? So they do blood tests, right? You get an exam and stuff like that. What's the purpose?
Put you on drugs.
Well, no, not really. That's like the end result. But the purpose is to see if there's a problem, right? But they really are looking for illness. They're looking for sickness. They're looking for disease. They're looking for pathology, which is they're experts at. They're trained for that. That's good. And sometimes, some cases, pharmacology, the use of drugs are really important for that, right? I mean, there are reasons for that, for them to exist. It's important. But I can never understand how the body of America fails to recognize that if you want to prevent illness, if you want to try to prevent going down that road of being in the hospital, you need to look at how is my body working. To me, it's just like common sense. It's like, how is my body working is a natural question a person would ask. Well, that's functional medicine. And what's amazing is we have all these tests. We have clinical tests inside the office. We have blood chemistries. We have saliva tests. We have hair analysis. All these different tests that can be used for pathology and looking for illness and sickness and giving you ultimately on a drug or maybe surgery. Or we can look at for the area of function. What's in balance? Like, for instance, if we do a blood test, when you get a blood test done, there's highs and lows, right? Mm-hmm. So if you get a high test on something, what's that usually tell you? Something bad. You don't want it to be bad. Yeah, scary, fear, right? And so it's bad. So we have these ranges that are quite wide, right? So, and they're based upon sick populations. That's where the numbers come from. You know, if you have serious infection, you know, infection has a certain number scale you have to be in to be classified as an infection. And then they can do proper protocols. That's clinical medicine. That's wellness. That's Western medicine. But what we like to do, we like to make these ranges smaller so that if the ranges are smaller, we can hopefully see something before it becomes a problem. Angel? Angel? Will you help with a chair? And so, for instance, so when we look at a blood test, we look at those same clinical ranges for pathology, for illness, for a serious disease, but then we also bring those in. Why would we bring the ranges in? Why would we do that? Because the doctor is going to tell you it's normal. If you're between our more narrow ranges and a clinical range that's outside, your medical doctor is going to say that's a normal test.
To catch it before.
Exactly, to catch it before it comes. Or you can look for patterns. You can see patterns. And what are we really talking about here? We're not talking about a disease. We're talking about function. So that's the whole point. So you want to try, and then when you think about function, not that you have to be the doctor, but it's really, I think I like my patients to be at least thinking a little bit about their bodies. You want to think about systems. Like tonight we're going to talk about thyroid. We want to be aware of your GI system, which is your digestive system. You want to be aware of your liver and how your liver is functioning. You want to be aware of the reproductive hormone system and the brain. So there's different areas. So you look by, and also for a good reason. Because clinically, we have tools for that. Not drugs, but tools to make your brain work better or make your thyroid work better, like food. So we can pinpoint a weakness area and decide what area we need to support, then we can support that. And what's the end goal? What are we trying to do? Healing, trying to prevent that stuff from becoming a problem, catch it early before it becomes a problem. It's kind of preventative, right? But also, we really want to have what does everybody want here? What do you want? You want vital life. You want energy. You want to have So you want to have strength. You want to be sleeping well. You want to do all those things that.
Awake during the day.
Exactly. So you want to be, and so when that's not happening, sometimes it's not a disease. Sometimes it's not an illness you have to pop a pill for. Sometimes it's just your body not working right. And sometimes it's just, you know what, bad habits. Sometimes we do things that create problems we don't even know sometimes we're doing. So another thing that's really helpful in teaching is that it helps us be aware of some of those simple things. Like when we taught the class on sleep. You know, some of the things that you could do to make a difference. Whoever thought about that, go to sleep earlier. What concept? Maybe work on getting 7 hours of sleep instead of 5, more out of habit than anything else. So again, not because of something's wrong, sometimes it's just a matter of making a decision. So we're going to talk about thyroid tonight. So what's the thyroid all about?
Controlling your metabolism.
Metabolism, yes.
Temperature.
And what's metabolism connected to with the body? It's our energy. So the thyroid is energy. Energy for what? Every organ, every cell of your body. So if your thyroid hormones are working properly, you have energized chemicals going to your brain, going to your liver, going to your kidneys, going to every part of your body. That's really vital. If you don't have that, what do you have? You have a lower metabolism, so the body's still working, you just can't do it at that higher level. So when we think about the thyroid, what does the thyroid do? So we know it's metabolism, we know it's energy, but what's the thyroid do? How does it get its work done?
Control temperatures.
Yes, it controls temperatures. How does it do that? So remember we talked last week about the nervous system? And the nervous system is primarily what? It's a source of communication, right? And how does it do that? How does my brain tell my arm to lift? How does that happen inside? Electrochemical. So it's like electricity. The way I like to think, my classes are pretty basic. I like to teach that way because it's easier to remember. So brain electrical activity. So a brain signal here is sending a nerve impulse through my spine, right, down through my arm, and telling it to raise. So that's how it functions. So that's communication. Well, the thyroid works by communication also, but does not use an electrical system for that purpose. How does it communicate? Hormones, exactly. And hormones are also called a system, a special name called, I'm thinking of a name. Anybody want to tell me what that name is? Endocrine, yes. So endocrine, okay, is a name we use for a hormonal system. I have a room on my chart, on my board. Now, when it comes to terminology and things like that, you know, it's not overly critical that you understand all that. What I really encourage you to try to get an understanding of is just how it works. What's the process of the body? Because the more you understand we call that physiology, but the more you understand, just in basic terms, how the body works, it just makes a lot more sense, helps you understand. And when you're doing work like I recommend to do, you know, it requires self-motivation. It requires an attitude. It requires a desire, right? And so sometimes education is just that little part of knowing more about what you're doing, so it gives you a little bit more of that support for yourself to be successful in what you're doing. So endocrine means what? Endocrine means hormonal system. That's all the hormones of the body. We're specifically talking about the thyroid tonight. Okay. So where's the thyroid located? Right here. Exactly. Now, hormones are messengers, right? They're a chemical communication system. So how does the thyroid know to release the thyroid hormone, you think? We're just kind of throwing thoughts out here. So if the thyroid has a hormone it needs to secrete, right? Thyroid hormone to get the body to work, to get the benefits of the higher energy, the benefits of metabolism, right? So how does it get that? Where is it coming from? What part of our body is telling the thyroid it needs to secrete a certain hormone? It's the same as the nervous system. The brain. The brain. So everything kind of starts in the brain. But in the nervous system, and raise my arm, it has to do with what? How does that work? It's the electricity, right, coming from my brain, coming down my spine to my arm to raise my arm, right? Well, this is different. The thyroid gets its communication how? We talked about it already. Hormones. Is hormone electricity or is it a chemical? It's a chemical, right? So the brain is secreting a chemical to go down to the thyroid to tell it what to do. But to do that, it actually has to do two pathways. Okay, so we have, without getting too complicated, we have the brain here. Okay, and the brain's secreting these hormones, and this is all about talking. So without getting too complicated, just one part of the brain talks to another part of the brain. That part of the brain talks to your thyroid. Your thyroid has a choice to listen or not to listen. Okay, so the first part of the brain that really is starting this process is called the hypothalamus. Okay, that's this right here. Now the cool thing about this is that the hypothalamus is not talking properly to the pituitary. Thyroid can't work right, and we have supplements to support that. Hypothalamus, PMG, or hypothalamex are two different nutritional items you can take to get your hypothalamus working a little bit better. And there's different tests we can do to evaluate that. So your hypothalamus in your brain is talking to your pituitary, and the pituitary is talking to who?
Thyroid.
Talking to the thyroid. Okay? And the thyroid is what we're talking about tonight, right? So have you ever heard of T3 and T4? Anybody, raise your hand if you've heard that. Okay? Most of you have, because where do you hear that? Where do you see that? On a blood test, right? Okay? So the most common blood test is done is T4 and TSH, which we're going to show a little bit later is really kind of not worthless, but by themselves almost. So, okay? But the thyroid produces the T3 and the T4. Easiest way to remember that, T stands for thyroid. Okay? Your active form is your 3. Your storage form is your 4. And the only difference between those two chemically is that T3 has 3 iodine molecules on it. T4 has 4 iodine molecules on it. So is iodine important for the thyroid gland?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So you can see why. If you're iodine deficient, which a lot of people are, you can't really manufacture the thyroid hormone properly. Can't from the get-go. Can't. You need the elements. You need the pieces, the parts to make it work right. Right? So T3 and T4, which is the active one?
T3.
And which is the storage one?
T4.
Right, okay. Now, which gland in the body makes the thyroid hormone? It's an easy question. Easy. Thyroid, okay. So the thyroid gland makes the thyroid. So what do you think the gland makes? Do you think it makes more T3 or more T4? Think it makes more active hormone or more storage hormone? There's a reason for that. It makes more T4. So the thyroid gland makes 95% T4, and there's a reason why this is important for you to know this, and then 5% T3. And that's because, how do hormones work? Go back to the basics again. The hormone is a chemical, right? It's flowing through the body. So how does it get from the brain to the thyroid? How does it get there? How does the hormone get from the brain to the thyroid? Does it jump? But how does it get there? Think about, is it electrical? Is it liquid? What is it?
Blood.
Blood, exactly. So the blood system is what's moving the hormone from the brain to the thyroid. This is really important. So and that's how hormones get anywhere. So for instance, if your brain's sending a signaling hormone to the ovaries to produce proper female hormones, it's going to go through the blood to get there. Now, do you think that the body wants that hormone to be active as it's kind of moving through the blood, or inactive?
No.
Yeah, we don't want uterine stuff happening through the rest of our body. We want it happening down where it's supposed to happen. So it's storage form, protein bound, inactive, which is the most common source of hormone will be in the blood because it's just carrying it. Once it gets to where it needs to go, then it gets released or converted into an active form that can be used. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So how's the hormone get from the brain to the thyroid? Through the blood. Is it active or inactive? Inactive, okay? Very important, because if it was active, it would cause all kinds of problems on the way down there, okay? So then it gets to the thyroid. Now, the thyroid's making mostly T4, which is the stored form, which is the inactive form. Why? Same reason, because it's got a way to go. It's got now from the thyroid, where does the thyroid hormone have to go to work? I mean, where does it want to end up at? Everywhere. Because T3, the active hormone, is used in your brain, it's used in your lungs, it's used in your kidneys, it's used in every part of your body. So the T4, which is a stored hormone, has to go through the blood and then get converted to T3. When it's converted to T3, that's the active form of the hormone and can be used by all the cells of your body. So one of the big problems with low thyroid sometimes is a completely normal brain, a completely normal thyroid, but the T4 is not getting converted. If the T4 is not getting converted into T3, what do you end up with? Hypothyroid. Not because of the thyroid, not because of the brain, but because the body is not converting it. Okay? So you look down this chart here, you see a conversion, got stars by it. Where does conversion occur? In the liver, kidneys, and gut. What's that sound like? That kind of sounds like the digestive system, right? And how the body, we've been talking about that the whole summer, about how critical the digestive system is. So you could literally have just a poor diet and just not be eating well and not exercising, not taking care of yourself. And your liver is toxic, not working right, kidneys are not working right, your gut's definitely not working properly. And guess what? You can be low thyroid simply because your thyroid gland is normal, your brain is normal, but you're not converting. And sometimes when people go on purification, one of the reasons why they feel miraculous is because now they have more active T3 thyroid hormone because it's being converted. So the thyroid issue is not just about the thyroid. It can be about your brain, it can be about the thyroid, or it can be about your gut, okay, and liver. So that's really important. Does that make sense? Kind of cool, isn't it? So you understand a little bit more. So it just tells you what? It tells you, what? It's important that my thyroid is working good, my brain's working good, but I also got to make sure my gut's working properly, okay? So that's really, really important. So the T3 active hormone, what does it do? Too funny, I didn't put it on the wall. I love it. It's the opposite of the symptoms. Increases metabolism. So let's reverse that. So let's talk about the symptoms of low thyroid. So if you don't have, what is low thyroid, first of all? From a testing standpoint, hormone standpoint, like based on what we've just been seeing, what is low thyroid? Low T3. Okay, so kind of get that in your brain. Low T3. Low T3 is low thyroid. Okay, because T3 is your active hormone to make your body metabolism increase. Okay, so if you're not getting that T3 on your body, you have loss of metabolism, increase in body weight, decreased energy, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, hair loss, decreased body temperature, dry skin, cold sensitivity, slow growth, increased cholesterol, irregular menstrual bleeding.
Ridges on your fingernails and
loss of hair.
Loss of hair and eyebrows.
So a lot of different symptoms, right? So, guys, that could be me, or that could be me, or that could be me. Well, maybe, okay? So it's sometimes helpful to test, okay? So, again, so if there's a problem leading to these symptoms, it can come from your brain, it can come from the thyroid, or it can come from a problem in conversion. So we talked about conversion. What about the brain or the thyroid? That's just the body just not signaling properly, because that's that communication pathway. So if it's, let's say you're converting properly, your digestive system is really good and healthy, but you're still low thyroid, what might that be? It can be one of two things. It's going to be your brain, or it's going to be your thyroid. Okay? And these are called primary hypothyroidism and secondary hypothyroidism. It's one of the reasons why they run TSH and they run T4, because they want to see, is your brain or is your thyroid? So if your brain's not working properly, you can have a low TSH when it should be high. If your thyroid is not putting out the proper amount of T4 or the thyroid hormone, what's the brain have to do? Good night. So if the thyroid gland is producing low amounts of thyroid hormone, and you have a low thyroid condition, this TSH here from the brain should be high. So think about it this way. You have the brain talking to the thyroid, then you have conversion down here, right? So the thyroid is not producing enough hormone, so we're low thyroid. So what should the brain be trying to do with the thyroid at that moment? Yeah, because the brain knows, because it has these different signals, that that's not producing properly. So the brain is going to try to stimulate the thyroid to produce more. That's called TSH. So the TSH will start to climb if the thyroid is not producing. So that's called primary hypothyroidism, which simply means it's the thyroid that's at fault here. But the thyroid is not producing properly, low T3, low T4, and your TSH is also low. What's that telling us? Even though the brain should be telling the thyroid what to do, is not. So then we need to support the brain. Okay, so that's what's happening in that area. Let's talk about tests. So the most common test that's done on thyroid, does anybody know? T3 and T4 and TSH. Yeah, they don't even do T3, not all the time. Sometimes they do. So I want to show you something that's really kind of interesting. And this will help to open your eyes as to what tests the doctors are requesting for you. Most reason why they run those tests is because they give them information on your, if you're taking thyroid medication, how to dose it, how to modify it, okay, increase or decrease it. Okay, so I want to bring your eye to the chart on the upper right-hand side. Okay, so I'm going to simplify this chart. On the left is normal thyroid function. All the hormones are right here in the middle of normal range. Normal range is the green bars. Okay, so that's normal, and all our hormones are right smack in the middle. That's normal function. What does that give you? Great metabolism, great energy, great function. This is mild hypothyroidism. This is moderate. This is severe. What do we have as severe? We have very, very low T3. T3 is the active form of the hormone. So see, as the T3 goes from normal down to low, hypothyroidism goes from mild to moderate to severe. So you see, understand what the chart's showing us there? So we know this is a problem, right? So you go see your doctor. You have symptoms of hair loss, loss of your eyebrow, low energy, gaining weight. Say, doctor, I think I got a thyroid problem. So he runs, okay, I'll run a TSH and run a T4 for you. Okay? So they run it, and let's say you're right here, moderate hypothyroid. Is that normal or not normal?
Not normal.
It's not normal. It's low thyroid. So you're moderate hypothyroid, meaning low thyroid at a moderate level. So not normal. But we run a TSH, and what's that? It's in between the green bars. The green bars are normal as far as the blood tests are concerned, so that's normal. And what's the T4? Also normal. Okay? But it's not normal. Let me show you why. We have free T3, which is dropping. If they were to measure it, that would be low. But they don't always measure it. So they measure free T3, that would show one sign of being low. But we also have reverse T3. Has anybody ever heard of that before?
I've heard of it, but I don't remember.
Okay, so this is really good to know. So if you want to know a little bit about thyroid, understanding about reverse T3 is very important. So it kind of goes back to the basics of physiology, basics of how the body works. The autonomic nervous system is what part of the nervous system? Autonomic nervous system is what part of the nervous system? What's it operate? All the things that we don't tell it to do. All the things that are automatic. So the easiest way to understand that, autonomic, is automatic. It's not the same word, but it basically gives you the idea. Your breathing, your digestion, all the different functions that go on without you telling the body what to do. Well, inside that, there's a sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. Sympathetic, have you ever heard of a type A personality person? Right? That's more driver, right? High energy. That's more sympathetic dominant. That means drive, 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 drive. Okay? And there's actually part of the system, the nervous system, is called sympathetic. Because why? Because there are certain times when the body needs to have that push to get out of the way of danger or whatever it happens to be. Right? Then we have the parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is the opposite. So it's the opposite of the driver. Laid back, chilled, and relaxed, right? So parasympathetic is more the relaxed or the calm essence of the nervous system. Sympathetic is the more driving part of the nervous system. And a great way to look at that is as a gas and a brake. Almost every system in the human body has a gas and a brake. Why? See the beauty in that? The body can do this. Can you imagine driving your car with only a gas pedal? Or only a brake? You know, it'd be pretty hard. So the body has a gas and a brake through every system in the body, so it can kind of modulate and determine what to do. That's one thing that I love about functional medicine. Because in functional medicine, in essence, what we're doing is feeding the body. feeding the body whole food, feeding the body things that they can use to determine how much gas and how much brake. We're not taking over the steering wheel of the car. Drugs are completely different. Pharmacological drugs control the gas, control the pedal. Like when they're trying to modulate your blood pressure, it's gas on or brake on, and they have to test it regularly because there's no system in the body that can regulate that. It's just more controlling of the body. So you have a gas and you have a brake. So free T3 is your gas. Reverse T3 is your brake. Same thing. So thyroid. Thyroid is important for metabolism. But we can't have this runaway metabolism, right? We have to have a balance. So how do we have a balance? God put in our body reverse T3 so we can have that brake as well as the gas. So it's like this. So a normal balance is what we should have. Okay? So what will reverse T3 then do? What's the effect? What's the purpose of reverse T3? The brake, right? Which is the opposite of the gas. If gas is free T3 and it's designed to increase metabolism, what's reverse T3? To slow metabolism, do the opposite. So they work against each other, but they work in harmony with each other, but they do have a completely different function. So if you have too much reverse T3 and not enough T3, active T3, what's the net result? Too much brake and not enough gas. Hypothyroid. So another form of hypothyroidism is a hidden, elevated reverse T3 that's never tested. And here we have a sample of this person with moderate hypothyroidism. If they get the TSH tested and even the free T4 and the total T4 tested, it's all normal. So the doc's telling you everything's good. But doc, it's not good. The test is good, I'm not good. You know? If they were to test the free T3, which is way out of normal, and the reverse T3, which is way out of normal, then we would know there's a problem. Okay? And we do it as a ratio. So reverse T3 divided by free T3 to see what the total is. And then that's another way we can modulate help a person if they have an issue that otherwise is going unnoticed. And so what's the solution? So we talked a lot about the problems and how it also develops. What's the solution? Before we get to the solution, based on what we shared so far, what are the three things we at least want to be aware of when we start to look at, okay, let's start from scratch. Come in the office and you say, I got a problem. I have weight that I can't lose, or my metabolism is just funky. I got no energy. I got my body temp's always low. I'm losing hair. I got slow growth. I got all these different things going on. Okay, what's the first thing, even as a patient, you may think about? Okay, I know you put that in my hands or in a doctor's hands, but what might you be thinking about? Well, the first one might be thyroid, right? Now, based on what we talked about tonight, thyroid comes up. That's good. What's your next thought? So what can affect the thyroid, or what affects the thyroid? What else might be the problem in my life? Not in the things you do, but the parts. What body organs might be related to my thyroid problem? It can be the brain, hypothalamus, or pituitary, or the thyroid itself, or my kidney, or my liver, or my gut, right? So you got to look at those things. Then you look at lifestyle, and you get an idea. Well, am I a toxic mess? Or do I eat really, really well? If you eat really, really clean, eat really, really well, it might be your brain or your thyroid. If you don't eat well at all, the first place you want to go is to there, because you can get that working better. I've been doing functional medicine work for 30 plus years. And every year I just learn more and more and more about how critical here to here is. Your digestive system. If you don't have these organs working properly, your liver, your gallbladder, your gut, and now we're learning more. 30 years ago, we didn't know that 80% of the immune system's in the gut or manufactured by the gut. We didn't know that most of the neurotransmitters in the brain are manufactured in the gut. We didn't even know that back then. But it's been clear to me that if you don't get the digestive system foundationally sound, you forget about trying to work on your brain or your thyroid or your heart. It's just not going to have the ability to. So you always have to start there. And that's why I always recommend to start care and purification, almost no matter what the tests are showing, because we need to get the body working better from a foundational standpoint. So, right, so understand we got these problems. We go, hey doc, I might have a problem with my brain, or I might have a problem with my thyroid, or I might have. You sound pretty smart. You're going like that, don't you? I might have a problem with my gut. You've been paying attention. So we know we have an idea we need to look at. So, what's the first thing we want to do? We want to test, right? So what would we do to test? Blood test would be good. First thing I would do is for digestive system, looking for enzymes, looking for minerals, things like that. That's what we do in the office. Looking at zinc levels, looking at iodine levels. We know that zinc and iodine are very important for thyroid, right? So we do that. Then blood tests. What blood tests would we run? T4 and TSH, right?
T3, T4.
Well, we run them all.
TSH,
Okay. So
and reverse T3.
there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. You have T3, total and free. T4, total and free. Total is your storage, actually storage and free. Then you have reverse T3, right? Very, very important. TSH.
Never gets tested.
No. And then also the antibodies, which we haven't talked about yet. TPO and TBG are just thyroid antibodies. And the reason we do test the antibodies for the thyroid is because that might be a thyroid problem. Remember we talked about it can be brain, thyroid, or gut. If it's an antibody problem, then we've got a problem with the thyroid itself. Anybody want to take a shot at to what might be going on if you have abnormal antibodies for thyroid?
Hashimoto's.
Be Hashimoto's. What is Hashimoto's?
Autoimmune disease.
Autoimmune, exactly. So what is autoimmune disease?
Body's attacking.
Inflammation, body attacking itself. Exactly. Why in the world would the body attack itself? That seems so weird to me.
Because it looks like whatever's there looks like an invader.
Well, this is next week's class.
Pardon?
This is next week's class. Next week's class is on autoimmunity. It's an awesome one. A little preview. What happens with the body is let's use the brain. Brain's an easy example. So NFL, right? Major concussion, major activity in the brain. Boom, 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 which they have all kinds of different rules now to try to reduce that, but pretty hard to reduce that in their sport. But if you have a significant amount of trauma to a tissue, in this case the brain, and you have cells dying, because that's what happens, cells die. Okay, if you have too much trauma, it's like cutting your skin; those cells are dying, right? They got to be replaced with new cells. If you have cells that are dying, what part of the body has to take care of that? Immune system. Very good. And what the immune system does, it goes in there and it collects the debris, takes it out, and removes it from the body. That's also called inflammation, by the way. Same system. Okay. So when you think about inflammation and how inflammation has such an impact upon our body, that's your immune system. So chronic, long-standing inflammation is a depression for the immune system. So let's say the number of cells from this brain concussion that took place, the body is overwhelmed. It can't handle all those cells that just died from that concussion. Where are the cells going to go? Well, they can't go anywhere because the body can't get rid of them. So they just float in the blood. But now what happens is they're tagged because their protein is brain protein, and the immune system is trying to attack it. It can't clean it up, so it continues to start to attack it. Until what happens is the brain itself gets labeled, and the immune system starts to chronically attack the brain. That's autoimmunity. So the body is attacking itself. It's just really a system that has gone into dysfunction because of the amount of volume of trauma that the body's had to contend with. It's not been able to keep up with it. So we use products, which are nutritional products, not a drug, called a PMG. And this is for next week. It acts as a decoy. So the great visual on this is, so what's Tom Cruise and what's the name of that movie with the jets? Top Gun, right? So you got two fighter pilots, right, going, and so the fighter pilot in the back shoots the missile towards the one in the front, right, and the Tom Cruise in the one in the front, right, so he can't die. So he shoots out this way. What's he do? As he diverts, well, he's going to do something. He's going to push a button. It's going to do something out of his plane. What's he going to?
Release flares, countermeasures.
He's going to release flares. What are flares? Flares are extremely hot metals that create this hot flaming thing in the middle of the air. Why? Because these are missiles that were just shot at Mr. Cruz is a heat-seeking missile. So the hope is that it hits the flare and not his plane. Seen that in movies before? It goes out and the thing just blows up in the air. Nobody gets dead. Okay? Well, that's how a PMG works. PMG works as a decoy, so the immune system starts hitting and pounding on that nutrient instead of the brain, which then does what? It gives the brain then an opportunity to rest and to heal. And you have to feed it, give it proper nutrition. Same thing with the thyroid. So going back to the thyroid, which is what this class is about, that was just an intermission. The thyroid hormones, not thyroid hormones, the thyroid antibodies are part of the blood test because we want to see if there's any autoimmune process in the thyroid. If there is an autoimmune process in the thyroid, then we know that can cause low thyroid or even hyper or excess of thyroid. So we want to know if it's there. If it's there and they're elevated, guess what we have? Autoimmune disease. And guess what we want to use? A decoy, the PMG, which is a nutritional product. And what's the primary medical approach to Hashimoto's? Or any kind of autoimmune disease for that fact? Yes. Primarily steroids. Which really, what's the steroid do? Okay, remember we talked about the immune system, right? You mentioned about the immune system, inflammation, right? Runaway inflammation, because this is autoimmunity, so it's runaway inflammation all the time in the body. Steroid is just, it just presses down on the immune system, presses down on that inflammation, so the body can start to function. But while they're functioning, their immune system is getting wiped out in the process. So, it's kind of hard to live like that. So that's why we run antibodies. So back to tests. So we do a functional medicine test in the office, we do blood tests, run all the thyroid hormones, including the antibodies. If the antibodies come up 0, then you're good. It's not an issue. We don't have to, and you don't need to retest that. It's pretty well a done deal for most people. We also run a fasting insulin and a fasting leptin test. Not really critical to know about. Well, fasting insulin. Any idea what that would be for? What's insulin for?
Levels.
Yes, very good. Blood sugar. Because insulin resistance, which is another class, can cause hypothyroidism. Insulin resistance is just the easiest way to think about that is just blood sugar. Blood sugar does what?
Spikes and drops.
But what's it do? So what's the name of our blood sugar? It's glucose.
Insulin.
Okay, so the blood sugar is glucose. This is the actual molecule of sugar. It's called glucose. It provides food in the form of energy for our cells. Okay, so the way it does that, it has to get into the cell for it to function. If we are not eating well, if we start to create problems, insulin is the hormone that moves the sugar into the cell so it can work properly. But if we have an ongoing problem, then the insulin becomes resistant, so it can't push that sugar into the cell, so it can't function properly. If the sugar doesn't go in the cell, it stays in the blood, sugar starts to rise, what do you end up with? Diabetes, because the sugar rises and rises and rises. So a person who's a diabetic has a condition called insulin resistance because that insulin is not working. So they take insulin, to try to, doesn't really fix the problem, just makes it where it works better for them. Okay, but insulin resistance also creates that low thyroid condition. So we run fasting insulin. So fasting insulin will let us know if that's an issue. Okay, which is more like the pancreas. Cortisol saliva test. What's cortisol? You guys were awesome. That's last week's class. So if cortisol is stress, can stress be related to hypothyroidism or low thyroid? It can. Can't. I know I got that in here somewhere right here. So possible causes of hypothyroid stress. Okay. Why is that? Stress affects everything. So the purpose of doing a cortisol test, not everybody needs to have that done, but if you have a history of significant stress in your life, it's wise to get it done. What organ does it evaluate? Cortisol. What organ are we talking about?
Your gut.
What's the stress organ? What's their fight or flight organ? Ooh, good. Very good. Adrenals. Adrenals are that little organ on top of the kidneys that are fight or flight organs. This is for stress. So stress levels are high, that organ gets depleted, and a cortisol test will evaluate that organ to see if it's functioning properly or not. Okay. If it's not functioning properly, okay, this is interesting. Your brain could be normal, your thyroid could be normal, and even your conversion can be normal, but the stress is not letting those functions work properly. Okay, so you could have an abnormal adrenal gland. In which case, what area would we focus on? Adrenals. But the reality is, most likely, conversion is not happening. So the most common scenario would be conversion not happening and adrenals are weak, which is a person stressed out and not eating well. So you just simply basically get them on purification, get their gut cleaned up, get them on some support for the adrenals, and most likely the thyroid would start to work properly, if that's indeed going on. All right, so 4 key elements on thyroid health.
So if you were on thyroid medicine and you did the purification and you did all the other stuff, so you can get off the medication?
It depends. Great question. So she asked, can I get off my thyroid medication?
Well, no, I don't.
I'm just, not you, in general. If a person's taking thyroid medication, if they get their body really healthy, can they get off of it? What do you think? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Right? So what you don't do, what you definitely don't do, is stop it.
No, because it really
You take it as prescribed, and then what do? You get your body healthy. Okay, you can get your body healthy while you're taking the drug. That's okay. And then what do you tell your doctor? I'm actively on a program. You tell them this. I'm actively on a program to get my thyroid working better. And I have confidence that in 6 months, in 12 months, I'm going to be able to come to you and say, you know what? I want to now work on reducing my thyroid medications. Are you open for that, doctor? Are you willing to work with me to try to get off these medications? If the doctor says, absolutely not, that's the time to fire him. Okay? If he says, well, you know, I'm not so sure you can do that, but you know what? Go for it. Well, keep them around. We have to remember our doctors, we employ them, we pay them. Okay? Just like me, I'm not the boss. I'm simply an educator. Okay? So I do what you tell me to do. Doctors should all be that same way. Okay? They should be the employee, not the employer, in my opinion. So the whole point here is that with the medications, yes, in some cases you can get off. What would be a very realistic thing would be to at least lower the dose. And why would you want to do that? Let me ask you a question. Let's say you're on thyroid medication, you've been on it for 25 years. A year later, you've gone through purification, you've gone through gut protocol, you got your body really strong, you're starting to exercise, you're really feeling good. A year later, but your thyroid's not quite making it because it's had too much assistance for a too long period of time, but you've been able to cut down to half the medication. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good.
It's an awesome thing. You know, and you've got to feel good about that. So it's not that you have to get off all the meds. You just want to get your body as healthy as you can and hope for the best. You know, and we work with a doctor who's willing to help you modify those drugs. Okay, great question.
Yeah, I had one doctor tell me that if you're taking, once you start taking the thyroid, that then medication that the body senses it, and it just reduces the amount of thyroid that your body makes.
Absolutely. So it's kind of common sense, right? So if you're taking T4 as an example, and your thyroid is designed to produce T4, what's your brain going to tell you? I have adequate amounts of T4. So then the brain hormone, which tells the thyroid typically to make more, doesn't communicate that.
So if it's a brain problem, then you're going to have that situation.
It can affect the brain, and it affects the entire mechanism. It's just the body's need for thyroid hormone is not there because you're supplying it. So the brain and the thyroid get lazy over time. That's why if you take it for 25 years, sometimes it's hard to get off of it because you've effectively not been using those parts of the brain. It's kind of like exercise in a way. But you know what? You can take also a person who's just really deconditioned and really completely out of shape in their whole entire life, and get them to start working out when they're 60 years old, and they can turn into a monster. So you have to understand the body has abilities sometimes to recover and do great things. It kind of just depends. So there are 4 key elements of thyroid health and keeping yourself in a really good state of health. We talked about them this summer. Okay. The first one is sleep. Why is sleep important?
To regenerate.
So in my world, when I talk about vitamins, sleep is the most important vitamin that you can ever take. It's the most important. Next to God, next to spiritual development, next to being on your knees before your maker, sleep's number one. It really is. If you're getting 5 hours of sleep, it's hard to make anything work right. And even if you're feeling good. So 7 to 9 hours.
And what about people that sleep daytime?
Hard.
That's not healthy for human body.
No, it's not. So here's how that works. Sleep is about pattern and rhythm. So ideally, before the light bulb, we would what? Go to sleep when the sun went down, wake up when the sun came up, which is how our bodies are designed. Okay. Now, after the light bulb was invented, not quite the case anymore. Okay, so we can work longer and later. Okay. So the next thing, though, to protect yourself, let's say you can't be on that daytime-nighttime schedule, or you choose not to be, which is really truly the truth, even though you may not be able to, is you want a consistent pattern. So the same day, every day. Now, what do you think is the most important part of that pattern? When you go to bed or when you wake up? Ooh, good question. What's the most important, consistent? What's the most consistent time? What do you want to really focus on? When you wake up at the same time every day, or when you go to bed same time every day? Nope. When you wake up.
Really?
Because what happens is has to do with the brain again, has to do with a thing called the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is a 24-hour clock. It starts when you open your eyes. As soon as light shines on your eyeballs, that's the start of your clock. It starts that 24-hour period. Okay, and so if you keep that start of the clock consistent every day, then your body can depend upon it and stay true to that pattern. Okay, if you try to catch up on your sleep and do it by sleeping in, it can throw off your entire clock.
Or naps. So
Naps
if
are
you
okay.
sleep, or someone sleeps a lot more than that, is that also an indication of a thyroid problem?
Well, it can be, yes. Sleeping more than 9 hours, sleeping 10, 11, 12 hours is usually pathological, meaning there's some type of disease associated with it. Okay, when normal, healthy sleep patterns, you should wake up fresh and alive and ready to go. Okay, 7 to 9 hours.
What if you sleep 20 hours a day?
Pathological.
Okay, I'm talking about the Epstein-Barr virus. Does that...
Pathological. That's a problem. So if the Epstein-Barr virus depresses, it can affect that. It also affects the immune system, and so it's a virus that's attacking the system, and so the immune system's overtaxed and create that kind of fatigue. Yeah, it's just not normal, not healthy. So sleep, number one.
Doctor, before when you say thyroid, the doctor was taking some supplements herb, and the doctor wanted to spend that supplement to run another blood test.
That's okay.
That's okay?
Yeah. So it's important to know that most doctors are not really trained in supplementation, herbs, vitamins, things like that. So just kind of general, they'll just do things that they think would be normal, such as, okay, I'm going to do a blood test. I don't want anything to interfere with that blood test, so stop everything until I run my blood test. You know, you just have to appease them. That's okay. Just go on.
I agree because that was 90 days. That was like 90 days.
90 days?
To spend the supplement knowing that I already got a little
Well, again, it also depends what kind of supplement you're taking. So
herbal.
Standard Process is a whole food company. We use food in capsules to feed the body. So that's like saying, well, don't eat for 90 days and we're going to take a blood test.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, herbs are a little bit different. Herbs are more powerful and cause systems to change inside the body. So sometimes you do have to be aware of what you're taking. Okay? So sleep, number one. Number two?
Can we get back to sleep? I've
Yes.
got to sleep.
No, go ahead. No problem.
I know, I'm facing your back.
No problem.
So, if you want to get up at the same time every day, should you set your alarm?
Great question. All right, so question was, if I want to wake up at the same time every day, do I set my alarm? Well, all right, so what's the most natural way to wake up?
Sunlight.
Not with your wife or her husband waking you up, right? It's filled with the sun and naturally. And don't use anything to stimulate that. But I mean, some people have to go to work. So sometimes you have to use it practically. So to answer your question, though, It would be best not to have to use an alarm if you can. Okay. Now, there's really kind of interesting. If you start with an alarm, so let's say you decide, and you can literally decide this. Okay, I'm going to decide that 5 a.m. is my time, or 6 a.m. my time, whatever you decide. But I'm going to work on my sleep, and that's going to be my set time. So you use your alarm, okay, and you just do that. And then you want to make sure you back up 7 to 9 hours. So let's say you pick 8 o'clock, right? So 7 to 9 hours, 9 hours would be like 11 o'clock. So you have to be in bed by 11 o'clock at least, if you're going to wake up at 8, as an example. A little late start, but that's okay. So if you decide to do that, so you do that. And you use the alarm clock if you have to. But eventually what you want to try to do is to try to, how would I phrase this? Just have the mindset of 8 a.m., that's my wake-up time. And go to bed with that mindset. And then see how consistent you can be on that pattern. Everybody's different. Some people are rock heavy, they have to have someone push on them to wake them up.
Well, I've had other doctors say, or one other, Fuller, say, go to bed, or get up at 5 and go to bed at 9.
Well, he's an early riser.
Well, that is his recommendation for good health for everybody.
Okay, that's not my recommendation. Let me tell you why.
Well, yeah, and I also wanted your opinion on naps.
Okay, now, so if you were to follow my world, yeah, you'd wake up at 5 a.m. And you know why? Because I like the morning. I like the morning. Not everybody likes the morning. So don't worry about it.
Learn how to like the morning, too.
But that's my point. My point is this. You decide what you want to do. You decide that starting time. Now, there is some science to what he's saying, because they also say that you want to get to bed by 10 p.m. to really benefit from the deepest levels of sleep. And that's why he's making that recommendation. Because in bed by 9, probably going to be asleep by 10, body temperatures drop properly, you have a better chance of getting those deeper sleeps. So 9 to 5 would be really probably ideal. I would agree with him. But do you have to do that? No. You just want to decide what you want to do in your life, but try to have that consistent morning time. That's the most important factor. Okay. So, any other questions on sleep?
Yeah, naps.
Naps are good. 30 minutes, not 2 hours. Okay. A nap is less than an hour. Okay. And it's very healthy for the body. Okay. Around the world, I mean, many cultures do that, right? They just do that, and it's awesome.
15 to 20 minutes.
What's the purpose of a nap? It just simply settles the body down, creates some calm, creates some peace. There's not a whole lot of rejuvenation going on as would be occurring in sleep. But if you go 2 hours, that circadian rhythm we're talking about, it gets affected. And so you would then stay up later, or different things happen, pattern of sleep gets affected.
So you should set an alarm for a nap then?
I would. If you're the kind of person that's going to sleep 2 hours, and I'd set it for an hour, yeah, I would. And I would just use it as a training mechanism, Tom, just to train your body, get accustomed to it.
Yeah, I often, if I lay down and, for a nap, it's often an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, you want to try to reduce that. I would probably cap that at an hour. And you watch your sleep patterns. They may be affected by it. It'd be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Second one, whole food. Why is whole food important? What we're talking about the foundational elements, 4 foundational elements for proper thyroid function. First one was sleep. Next one's whole food. Why is that important?
Get all the nutrients.
Absolutely. So what is whole food? What's the healthiest food on the planet? Vegetables, especially green ones, right? So vegetables, especially green ones. Okay. So whole food is simply, think back 200 years ago.
Before the flour mills?
Yes, 200 years ago, before agriculture, before the processing of food, before all that stuff. 200 years ago, things that came out of the ground, right? Or things that came up to you and hit them or shot them, right? That's whole food. Even meat is whole food, but it's not processed. So it's hard in our culture because everything's processed, right? So that's why bread's so hard on the body, because it's so processed. So whole food is as close to the original form as you can get. Okay, so vegetables, fruit, brown rice, nuts, seeds, oils, meat. Yes.
So every morning I have a smoothie. So is that still considered a whole food?
Well, it's a processed whole food, but there's the levels of processing, right?
Why is it a process if you're using?
Because you put it in a blender,
Right. So
processed it.
But
That-
it's not adding chemicals. Or
No.
anything,
So, so it's a really great question. If I make my smoothie, is that processed food, or is it whole food? Well, technically it is whole food, but you want to be. I like to, speak truth the way it is. True whole food is eating an apple, right? So it starts over here. This is actually grabbing it out of the ground and eating it. Okay, tomato, apple, whatever it happens to be, right? And then we have all the way down here where we beat up the tar out of a piece of grain and call it white bread, right? So we have the scale, okay? And so you can do a lot of great things with shakes and smoothies and juicing and all that kind of using whole food as your substrates, as your chemicals, as your food, as a source. But technically, it's processing. It's not important. What's important is whole food. What's going inside that
then
blender?
you're doing green powders and red powders, and that's been processed.
Exactly. So would it be healthier to use a green powder, or to have a big thing of kale?
But you can get more if you do it in a smoothie. I think.
Would it be
You can
healthier to
put
have
more-
green powder or a bag of kale?
A bag
Bag
of
of
kale.
kale.
Absolutely. Am I going to do a bag of kale every day?
No.
Well, maybe not. Okay, well, it might be healthy for me to use some green powder in my shake just because it can be more consistent with it, and I know it's going to be healthy for me. Absolutely. So you're way over here.
So there's still
Far from
nutritional
McDonald's.
value to it.
Absolutely. Huge nutritional value to it, and we use it all the time. So I use it every day. I put a little
With
scoop
my
of...
smoothies, I'll put green, red, or protein powder.
Yeah, Standard Process has a new shake called a detox shake, which I am amazingly in love with. But I'll add a scoop of greens into that, And why do I do that? Because I also know my likelihood of getting 5, 6, 7 servings of vegetables in that day. I work on it. Every meal I have is a salad.
A scoop of what you add to it.
Powder, green powder.
Okay, but it sounded like you said you put a scoop of grains.
No,
Oh,
green.
Greens.
Yeah,
okay.
no grains.
That's what shocked me.
Yeah. So when I eat salads all the time. So I try to eat a lot. But 5, 6, 7 helpings are a bit of a challenge. You can literally put in your body. Dr. Furman's recommendation is 1 pound of vegetables every day. 1 pound. Okay, 1 to 2 pounds every day. So you just shove it in your mouth. I mean, it's not called overeating because you can't. You can't overeat on vegetables. You can't. It's just so bulky, so full of water. And you know what? Amazing nutrients in your body. So if you put a pound of vegetables in your body every day, your body just freaks out in a good way because it's getting nourished big time. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big advocate of meat.
It's more than a pound.
Well, it's actually when you grind it up, you actually get more in your body. Okay?
You're running it.
Yeah. So don't think that I'm saying shakes bad. Shakes are good. Okay? I'm just saying that you want to be truthful in what you're communicating
Right.
and what you're doing. Okay? So is a shake a processed food? Well, to a certain degree it is. Is it a healthy food? Oh, it's a superfood. It's a superfood. Okay? But it's still a shake. Okay? But we use them because of convenience and the ability to get more into our body. So we got vegetables, we have fruit, we have nuts and seeds, we have oils, and we have meat. One of the reasons why I'm not a big advocate of a lot of meat, like big steaks, is because I'm trying to get that 5, 6, 7 servings of vegetables in my mouth. It's hard to do that when I'm eating a bunch of meat. Okay? So meat also can be healthy. I think in America we abuse it, however, because we eat more muscle meat, whereas really truly the healthiest meat is organ meat, which is something we just don't do anymore. I don't do that anymore. Now, Standard Process, the PMGs I talked to you about, most of those are organ meats. Okay, and that's why they work so powerfully. So I do eat organ meat, but I eat it in a pill. Has anybody been to what's the name of that place? It's thank you, Seafood City. Oh my gosh! So Seafood City is the old Kmart up on Eastern. Walk in that place. It's Korean, right? Is that right? So Asian, excuse me. So They have brain, they have tongue, they have, oh my gosh. It's like, my mind goes, yeah, I want that. You know, I want, because I know what it does for your body. You know, so I want that. Oh, can't do it. They have canisters of blood. Just blood. Exactly. It's like, man, I'm sure that's good for you, but I don't think I can go there. But you think about it, 100 years ago, not uncommon. People ate cat. They eat liver. My dad ate liver all the time, and heart.
I
And,
ate it growing up,
yeah.
but now,
Yeah. And it's only because I have it. It's only because I have it. It really is. That's what I tell myself, at any rate. All right. So third one, decrease stress. How do we decrease stress?
I get some salt
sometimes.
Well, so yeah, good. So I have a thing in my.
Function in
We do,
life out there.
one of the cool tests we have in the office is called heart rate variability. It's a pretty cool test. So the German scientists discovered that how your heart varies over a period of time actually is a good measurement of how your nervous system responds to stress. So we have a 5-minute test. You stick your hand on a plate, gives you a little dot, either in the middle of green or in the red. So if your body's responding well to stress, that means it's adapting to that stressor that's coming in. That's ideally what you want. If you're in the red zone, that means you're tight. You can't deal. You can't respond to it. You have no idea. You have no ability to respond to that stress. That's life-threatening, potentially, heart attack, things like that. So when someone's lower on that test, I tell them, add 1, subtract 1, plus 1, minus 1. And what I mean by that is, okay, plus 1, minus 1. All right, so plus 1, find something in your life that you like, that you enjoy, like that bubble bath, okay? Or maybe a prayer time, or maybe a journal, or maybe a run, or maybe golf. But find that something in your life that you can add to your life. Minus 1. What's the minus 1? Find one thing that you literally can remove that's a stressor. Okay? Not necessarily kicking the person out of your home, but you know what I mean? Find something you can do to remove. Okay? And that's my initial recommendation for that. I'm a big God guy. I believe in Jesus Christ. I think He's the foundation He's the foundation of my life for sure. So in stress, I feel it has more to do with giving it to God. You know, and just, you know what? I didn't make this planet.
Right.
I didn't make this world. So what makes you think that I'm so high and mighty and superior and I need to know the answer to everything in my life? Well, maybe not. You know, maybe I can simply be on my knees, humble before my Lord, and say, you know what? Take the reins from me. You know, surrender, if you will. You know, I think that's really the most powerful thing a person can do with stress, quite honestly. You know, and relationships, key. You know, they're not that hard to understand when they're not good. Right? So, and if we know the most powerful thing you can do is simply be on your knees and maybe pray for somebody, even though you may not want to, you know, that might be a good, and you know what? Who's benefiting from that?
You are as a person.
Yeah. They are too, but you are too. That's number one, I feel, with stress. Okay? So the plus 1, minus 1, pray. Okay? Exercise. Daily. 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 So exercise. So does that mean I have to be a marathon runner? Does that mean I have to be an Olympic athlete? No, I could go walk. But something. And why? What's our topic tonight? Thyroid. So the 4 pillars: sleep, exercise, reduce your stress, add 1, minus 1, and whole food. Thank you. Okay. Now, when there's a problem with the thyroid, this is the cool thing. This is my department. When there's a problem with the thyroid, and sleep, and water, and good food, good whole food, and exercise is just not cutting the mustard, I still have a problem with my thyroid. That's when nutritional therapy comes in. So what would be our first step? What do we want to do?
Purification.
Well, yes and no. Okay. We first want to know a little bit about what's going on, right? So we're going to test. Okay? And test can be simple or it can be complicated. It can be expensive or it can be non-expensive. So that's what I do in a consultation. I say these are all the possibilities. We can go as deep as you want to go. Okay? But we test first. So why would we test? Because we want to know if it's a brain, thyroid, or the gut, or liver, right? Now, if you do a symptom survey, if you do a simple scan of the body, functional medicine exam, just that alone can pretty give you a good idea of what your gut's doing. So we have a good idea if your gut's not doing well. Our first step is purification. What's purification do? Remember I said here to here? It's getting this system working right. Our entire digestive system. So our stomach is part of that. Our gallbladder, our liver, our colon, everything, right? So why is that so important with thyroid?
So you would say,
What part? What do we? It's written on this board. There's one word I'm looking for. If we're doing purification and it's for the thyroid, we're trying to get the thyroid to do. We're trying to get the body to do something with the body's doing something with that hormone. We want it to do a better job of it. We know it's not doing a good job because the liver and the gut's not working properly. Exactly. Conversion. You hear that? Conversion. So the reason why I'm doing purification if I have a thyroid problem is because I want to handle the conversion potential problem because we want to get rid of that. Okay? So that's the gut. What's the next step? Support the organs. Well, what a concept. So if the brain's not working properly, how do we know that? We know that through the saliva tests, hormone tests. We also learn that through some of the blood tests. So if it's the brain or if it's the thyroid, we want to support those organs. And how do we support the organs? With nutritional supplements. And that's what the PMGs do, the decoy things we talked about. Okay? And then each organ will have a different set of different nutrients that are important for it. So tonight I want to teach you the thyroid. What's really most important as far as nutritional supplementation for the thyroid. Okay? And that's over here. Oils. EPA, DHA, GLA. Very, very important for thyroid function. Okay? Minerals. Iodine, zinc, selenium. Very important for thyroid function. Gut. How do we support the gut? If your gut's healthy, pre and probiotics. What's a prebiotic? We all know what a probiotic is, right? What's a probiotic? Let's start with that first. What's a probiotic?
That's bacteria.
Yeah, let's go back to the gut. What's the most important thing in a healthy gut? Healthy what? Organisms. We're down here now. Digestion's up here. So in this area here, the most important thing are organisms. Bacteria, virus, all those little guys. Okay. Healthy flora. Okay, what are they doing? What's the healthy gut doing? Making 80% of your immune system, number one. Making all the neurotransmitters for your brain, number two. Okay, so that's really important. Also converting some of that thyroid hormone for you. Those are bugs. Those are bacteria. There's twice as many bugs in your colon than all the number of cells in your body. I mean, it's phenomenal. Okay, so that's most important. So a probiotic is a bacteria. That's your good bacteria. So it's like if you're making a garden, it's like throwing seeds on the garden. That's a probiotic. A prebiotic is like toiling the soil. You know, getting the soil prepared. Because when you farm, what do? You get the weeds out, you get the soil prepared, and you drop the seeds on there, right? So the prebiotic is you're tilling the soil. It's really mostly fiber, inulin, different fibers. That's a prebiotic. It's getting the colon ready for the seeds. A probiotic are the actual bacteria or the seeds so they can populate and grow. So that's a pre and a probiotic.
The pre will be fiber, you say?
Fiber. Inulin is the most common. PMGs, that's organ support. Vitamin C, E, and A, very, very important for the thyroid.
What is it, on the oils, what kind of, besides just buying an oil and that you have some, what kind of oils?
In the food?
contain that
In the food?
Yeah.
what's an EPA and
Your coconut oil is really good.
What?
Coconut oil.
Yeah, but is that an EPA, a DHA, or GLA?
It's going to have more of the. I don't really answer that question, but it's going to be most likely more EPA and DHA. GLA is more black currant seed. We have a product called black currant seed oil, which has GLA. Evening primrose oil is a GLA oil. But your nuts and seeds have a lot of oils in them. Your coconut oil, nuts. Yeah, so especially walnuts. Walnuts are really high in oils. Almonds are too, and cashews are all. So all your nuts. So if you get a nut, what's a healthy nut?
Brazilian.
Raw and unsalted, not roasted.
And that falls under what again, the EPA?
Oils.
The oils.
Yeah, just oils in general.
Oh, okay.
Each nut's a little bit different.
You still soak in that.
You can, I don't, but you can. Yeah. And the other oil, just your standard olive oil, good processed. I mean,
Grapeseed.
cold processed oils, grapeseed oil. Yep. Then we use and then whole food supplements. So, like for instance, the thyroid, we use herbs for the thyroid, as well as the PMG, and then the other support systems. So, has anybody raise your hand if you've done purification with our office? Okay. What was that experience like for you guys?
I had a rush of energy in the first 10 days, and I thought it was going to be difficult to maintain at first because it was pretty pure, you know, but it really wasn't. I did it for 30 days. Now I'm perhaps just as a lifestyle, maybe 75% on it. You know, I like chocolate chip cookies. And then, I might have one a day, but a healthy chocolate chip cookie with no but no GMOs, right? So it's now a way of life.
And Tom's health has changed dramatically, you know. So 75%, that's awesome, you know. So what you want to try to do is allow it to make a lifestyle for yourself. Yes.
So I thought I had done purification, but wasn't sure. I didn't smoothies or something. It was like 10 years ago, but it was with you.
Yeah, that would have been 2 shakes a day and about 30 pills a day when it started. So you would remember that.
I took a lot of supplements.
Yeah, you probably did it. Yeah.
But it was the best I ever felt in my whole life. I never got sick. I could sleep. I got up and wasn't in pain.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
You say you weren't in pain?
No pain. I would get up and it would hurt just to start walking with my ankles and stuff. And when I did the purification, I never felt pain. I slept. I never got sick. I didn't get sick for years. Never. Nothing. A cold, nothing. It was the best I ever felt.
Yeah. So it's amazing what the body can, and the testimony for that is so important. That's not a pill that did that. You know, that's not a shake that did that. You know, that's your body that did that. All you did was, you know, the foundation has to be food, then you support it.
Gallbladder flushes.
Hmm?
Are they good for you?
Well, the most important thing for the gallbladder, in my opinion, is just proper function of the gallbladder. There's actually a food that the gallbladder loves to have in your body. Anybody want to take a guess what that food is?
Pizza.
No.
Gotta have something to balance the kale with.
It's a fruit. No, it's not green. It has a color that you can't be mistaken.
Beets.
Yes.
Beets?
Beets.
See, I put those in my smoothie.
Gallbladder
I
love beets?
put blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, dark cherries, beets,
Yeah.
kale,
So
spinach.
you have a red smoothie.
Aloe vera gel, coconut water,
Yeah.
cinnamon, and grounded flaxseed.
That's good.
Good job.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
All at the same time, or?
No, I make batches of it and then I freeze it
Oh.
because it takes too much time in the morning. So I've learned
Yeah.
how to make a batch and 1 serving a day. So I'll make 18 to 21 days ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what I put. And then because I know you can't put the powders in there, so once it's defrosted in the water, I put it in the little mixer.
And you let
then
it
I put my
and you let it
powders.
defrost on its own, just
I put
room
it
temperature?
in cold water. No.
Okay.
It's this way because it's in a baggie.
Okay.
And I lay them out flat, so I stack them. And then when I get up, I put that in a square thing.
So I have an assignment for you. You need to bring the shake next week. Everybody have a
Okay.
shake.
So then I defrost it, and then I put it back in my magic bullet thing. Then I put my powders in there.
Mhm.
And
Good.
then. So
That's
that's
good.
why I was.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. And my beet. I mean, when I.
So
put the
beets is where
in
we
there,
are. So
it's so pretty.
So gallbladder loves beets, and also very important for constipation. Okay, so if you're having problems with going to the bathroom properly, beets is a really good. Try a simple solution. Yeah, have one beet a day if your stuffing is not working properly. It gets your gallbladder working better. What's that?
Because in order to freeze, because what I do is I freeze them. Like I'll cook my beets because you can't freeze them raw, and then I put them in there because it's too granular.
Yeah, it's good.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. So to answer your question though, gallbladder flush. So gallbladder flush, I would do that first. I would do purification first and support the gallbladder first. See if that takes care of it. If it doesn't, then a flush. Okay, it's just more drastic, harder on your body.
I was just going to add what happened to me for 45 days. I think I was on the purifying. I started with you. We had the 21 days
Right.
of all that, but at the same time, I went vegetarian, no grains.
Right.
And, with like the Daniel fast,
Yeah.
45
Yeah.
days, and
Yeah.
then and I was feeling pretty good. But the last day. It'd been the last day, the day before. I headed for California. I stopped at the Greek place there in Baker.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had any of that for a while, so I had one pita bread and a what is it, non-dairy pizza. What is it? And along with the salad and
Right.
stuff. And the next morning, about 11 o'clock, I had a redness across the top of my forehead on the left side, and then it got bigger and bigger, and then it started oozing. And so it was like, I guess, all these toxins.
Well, think about it. Isn't it magical? I think it's magical.
Yeah.
How the body will talk to us. If we look at it in those terms, it's not being sick. That's not being sick.
Yeah,
That's your body saying, hey, I like what you're doing. Keep it up.
Yeah, it was just telling me, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've also read that we are the only animal, whatever you want to call it, species, that continues to have dairy, and that's one of our downfalls, because when you look at other animals, once they're weaned, they're weaned. They just eat vegetables.
Well, not only that. I mean, how many have cow mothers?
Right.
Cow milk is
You know?
for their babies.
But that's part of,
Yeah, the casein protein, which is the protein in cow milk and dairy products, is very damaging to our health. It should not be ever eaten, in my opinion.
And goats and
Ever.
sheep aren't as bad.
Yeah, goat's a little bit better. So if I, for instance, do yogurt, instead of doing the Greek yogurt, I go and get goat yogurt, plain. Yeah. But, now the yogurts are not quite as bad, because why? Why would that be not as bad? So let's say cow milk versus cow yogurt. Plain yogurt over here, and I got whole milk over here. Okay, which one's healthier? The yogurt. Why? It's been cultured, fermented. What's fermentation do? That's bacteria breakdown, right? So that's to break down the protein, which is the problem to begin with. There's a really interesting book called The China Study. Has some really interesting research on casein particularly, and its impact upon destroying our health. Pretty interesting.
But don't get the ones,
China Study.
but don't get the ones with fruit in them, right? 'Cause they have
No.
sugar.
On your yogurt, always get plain yogurt. Never get one that's fruit yogurt, strawberry, lemon yogurt, vanilla yogurt. They're all sweetened with sugar. What?
What about coconut yogurt plain?
Probably be fine, but you have to look at the ingredients. And when you look in the label, don't look at the square, look at the ingredients. Yes, Christian.
The casein, don't like bodybuilders use a lot of that? Like it's like a supplement of protein or something?
Oh yeah, bodybuilders love that
Right.
stuff. I
Yeah.
just use a different word, but I'm on film tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, bad. Like the whey protein, very bad. Yeah.
Are women more prevalent to thyroid problems than men?
Yes. You know what? I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know why.
I think it's
But yes.
because of hormones.
Could be. Yeah. You're probably right. There's a delicate balance between hypothalamus, pituitary, ovary, uterus. They have their own cycle going on. Okay? And so obviously they can come into play. So if your female hormones are not in proper function, it can throw these off, throw your thyroid off. That's a good point. That's probably why. Yeah. Probably why. So recommendations are, if you've not had a functional medicine consultation with me, I encourage you to do that. I spend about 20 minutes with you. I have you fill out 2 questionnaires to complete before you come in. I do that free of charge. And the purpose of that is to kind of get an idea of what next step you might be interested in, whether you do it with me or elsewhere. And then I would highly recommend also purification. We've just launched a new purification, which I thought I loved the last one, but I'm always a little bit suspicious when new stuff comes out. So Standard Process released a detox powder, different shape powder. And so Susan and I did it for a month, and it was phenomenal. It was really good. And what I really like about it is that when you're done with the program, I always recommend SP Complete before, which is it's part of that program, the purification program. But it doesn't have any really detoxification elements. They've added some detoxification elements into the powder itself. So when you're done and you want to do maintenance, you do 1 shake a day, it's going to keep your liver working a little bit better. It's going to keep your gallbladder and colon working a little bit better. So I like that a lot about it. So it's a 28-day program now instead of 21 days. And the initial program started off with 21 pills a day of SP Cleanse and the powder, while all those pills have been put in the powder. So they've been wiped out. So
No pills at all?
you can do it completely with no pills at all, but usually I like to support the gallbladder and stomach, so I'll recommend a few things. Okay? But yes, you can technically do it on all powder for 28 days. So it's a really good program. It's a really great program. And you can keep doing your shake. You're welcome to use your shake.
And then I could use these
Yes,
ones.
absolutely. All right, so thank you everybody for coming tonight. If you're interested in a consultation, on the sign-in sheet, circle your name. If you want a test done, circle your name, write test next to it. If you're just kind of curious to know about, maybe I should get my thyroid tested, write that down. Well, I'll give you some recommendations to run. We have amazing, even though, well, here's an interesting thing. I'll finish on this. So when you order a blood test, this is more like on the practical end of things. So you want to order this thyroid profile. Would that be a good thing based on what we talked about tonight?
Yes.
Good thing, right? So, well, I want my insurance company to pay for that. Okay, well, great. Okay, so, well, sometimes they do, but not really. So because in America, the system is Western medicine. Western medicine, as we talked about tonight, is based upon pathology. So to get a test approved by an insurance company, it has to be testing either for a suspected pathology or a previous pathology. So if you don't have previous thyroid pathology or you don't have a suspected thyroid pathology, you're not going to get those tests ran. So at least not through the insurance company. And the doctor won't run them because he just won't run them because they do pathology. They don't do, doctor, I want to have these tests because I always want to make sure it's working right. I'm doing this for my wellness. So it's not here. They
When
just don't do it.
Oprah had her TV program still, she was big on getting the thorough thyroid
Yeah.
testing. She would say you really have to fight to
Yeah.
get it.
So I'm happy to say that we have relationships with the labs, with Quest, about 80% reduction on their costs of their tests. So for instance, a female wellness profile, which would cost, if you paid cash for it, about $2,500, I get for $350. That's everything. A thyroid profile, like we're talking about tonight, I can get for $100. So, you know, there are ways you can get those tests done at significant savings. You just have to pay out of pocket as opposed to through an insurance company. And it's mostly because it's a wellness purpose as opposed to pathology.
So when a doctor sends you for blood work, very seldom is the thyroid included in that?
They'll give you a T4 and TSH, and maybe a T3.
But not.
Look back at your earlier test, you'll see that. And they'll talk about them as if it's a full test. We test your thyroid as normal. Not so.
Many of them don't know any better.
Yeah, which is fine.
They just don't want to.
Sometimes. Sometimes. It's not really, you know, I'm not a big advocate of I don't think we have a lot of people in these smoke-filled rooms, doctors, thinking terrible things about the public and things they can do terrible to us.
No.
It's just a mindset. They've been trained in pathological mindset. They've been trained to look for disease. They've been trained that the answer is to find the smoking gun, the gun that will kill that disease. There's a very interesting, I promise my last point. There's a really interesting story about Pasteur and Beauchamp, both French scientists, 1800s. Pasteur discovered what? Pasteurization. And he was the one that discovered germ theory. The germs can go from a person to a person or from an animal to something, and it could infect people. He was the one that. So that was the start of isolation, the start of hygiene, that kind of stuff. So Pasteur thought the big enemy is the bug, and really the father of Western medicine, because he says the enemy is the bug. That means we need to create things that can kill the bug. As long as we kill the bug, then we're good. Now Beauchamp, same period of time, in fact the same country, both in France, believed quite differently. He thought it was the host, not the bug, meaning you. Meaning we have to make sure your immune system's right, your system's strong. It's the resistance to the bug that's more important than the bug itself. And the story goes, who knows if this is true or not, that Pasteur on his deathbed said to Beauchamp, you were right all along. But it had already been set in motion, father of medicine, and that's why we have a system designed upon the bug being the evil one, and we need to create this chemical to kill the bug. And there's another thing that's feeding that hugely, which is what? Money. Because if I had to design this tool, which is patented, which is extremely expensive, and I can make them and make money from them, it fits in the system, and then I'm supported. Why am I supported? Because it's the medicine way, and so it's what we do. Okay? Oh my gosh. I mean, can you imagine having a business where the government requires everybody in the planet to use your product? And if you didn't use it, you get thrown in jail? Sign me up if you can sleep at night. It's called immunizations. So I'm not a big fan. If you look at immunizations, even as a group, we are so heavily inoculated in this country, way more than Europe, way more. So you're not even going to get close to thinking that's normal. It's not. That's just big business. That's all it is, my opinion. Well, thanks again for coming. Next week is going to be on autoimmunity and the immune system and how to work on it. Thanks everyone for coming.